Hello, Exiles. This is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and welcome to the kind of finale, I guess, for now, for my solo self-found Frost Blades Trickster. I'm going to pretty soon here run an Elder, and I'll show you that. It'll be my first Elder attempt. I was able to get my Yoke of Suffering, so the build's pretty complete, and I was also able to get a Hunter Shield. I'll talk more about gearing and how I kind of put that kind of stuff together. I mean, obviously the yoke is not deterministic, but I did do a ton of magic finding, and I got it when I wasn't magic finding, funnily enough. But you know, that's how it goes sometimes. I'm just gonna go ahead and pop in, and I'll talk more later. But yeah, currently level 93. Died a lot trying to get some stuff set up before I had my full gear set up here. Before I jump in, I just want to talk about my expectations. So my current regular POB DPS is about 12.1 million at the moment, which is pretty solid after 8 days. I guess, yeah, this is day 8. Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with my progress I've made on here. Obviously, in Trade League, you could progress much quicker than this, but overall, I'm pretty content with how the build's performed. As far as Shaper goes, or Elder rather, I think I'm going to be a little inconsistent on the damage because I think I have to kind of high roll my damage in order to actually register a freeze, even at the DPS and the level of freeze duration I'm at. But we'll see. I think I have around 300% total, so plus 200% freeze duration, which means I should, in order to get a freeze that registers, have to do like 1.66% of the Elder's health. And if Trinity procs, I'll be able to more easily do that. If Trinity doesn't proc, I'm gonna have to do this on a 5 link, and that'll be telling on basically how much more DPS we'll have to get. But honestly, I think it should work, but we're about to find out, so we'll see. It's possible. I don't have a replacement for Trinity leveled up, like a crit damage, so I might have to run a level 1 crit damage if Trinity doesn't work. But yep, we will see, because obviously I can't get Trinity to proc if I don't freeze. I might not freeze until I get the frenzy charges up as well. If you have the Tuku Hama's boots, you can swap them to in and on and off with your boots to get up to max frenzy charges right away in the beginning of a boss fight. But this being solo self-found, I do not. So we'll see. Obviously, I am freezing actually. I have my Trinities up, so that's good. We just stay inside here. Oh yeah, I am running Withering Step as well now. Just get behind him, resummon everything, get my totem back up, Withering Step, and so far, okay, that was first phase, pretty simple. I'm not going to bother gem swapping. I was going to gem swap to Ancestral Call for this just to make it faster, but I don't want to have to swap back in a hurry, so we'll just kind of manually walk back and forth and kill the portals. This is going already a lot smoother than I had initially anticipated. I didn't think I would be doing this much damage yet, but I probably could have done this even possibly without the yoke. Maybe not. The yoke is contributing about 55% of my total damage. I got 55% more damage switching the yoke on, just to show you how important the yoke is. But I was still doing close to 8 million DPS before I got the yoke as well. So that's pretty good. It was like 7.6 million, something like that. Yeah, we're killing the portals pretty much before anything can spawn. The extra projectiles are going out and killing the extra squids that spawn. So yeah, this is nice and smooth, way smoother than I expected. I was expecting a little, well, we'll see. I'm pretty sure one of the reasons Elder is so good for this is because I think we have a lot of defenses. Like, I don't actually think, as long as we don't run out of his circle when he does his circle phase, I don't actually think, which is right here, by the way, as long as we don't run out of this central circle, I don't actually think he can hurt us at all. Like, I don't think he has an attack that can do damage to us because of the way our defenses are set up. So I can face tank, I think, everything, really. Okay, got an Impressive. So that was way, way, way easier than I thought it would be. What did we get? Conductivity? Not well. I mean, we were never going to replace the oak, no matter which one it was. But that's cool. Didn't get a Watcher's Eye though. Um, yeah, cool. So that's Elder down. Let's see. I clear. I mean, I am doing a gem swap now. With oh, I did that whole thing with Ancestral Call. I was literally doing that with 34% less damage than I should have done. So I can freeze on a 4 link against entry level pinnacle bosses. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I must have done my math wrong, or just, you know, maybe I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to calculating freeze. I thought I had it like down, and I'm like, oh yeah, even with even with elemental damage with attack support, I'm gonna need to. I'm only gonna freeze like half of the time or something like that. Apparently, that's not the case. So, all right, so that's promising. And I guess I'll go over the gear. This kind of gear, if you're playing Trade League, you should be able to get this level of gear within like 2 or 3 days on average. If you're like the kind of person who I would say I'm a faster than average player, and it usually takes me 6 to 8 hours, depending if I engage in the league mechanic, to get 2 maps. I'd say the average player probably is like an hour per act. I don't actually know that for sure. I'm just kind of estimating. Uh, so I would say, like, for that kind of player, day 2 or 3, you can expect this level of gear. Heatshiver, I have Ancestral Warchief Totem, and grants 30% increased melee damage while active on my Heatshiver now. I did 14 Uber Lab runs and was not able to get Frost Blades. I was also looking for a mono reservation for either Herald of Ice, Hatred, or Grace before I got this shield. Speaking of, this is my Hunter shield. I got 2 of them. Another one here, I actually was using this one for a while. This one's kind of bad, but it did the job. It's not evasion base, and it's just kind of not super good. But this one's pretty solid. The reason I say it's pretty solid is because it's got 15% to block, and I think I've explained previously how block interacts with evasion. It's very powerful in combination, and because I have such high block chance now, I actually also spec Wind Dancer. The reason you want to spec this once you get, or if you get a high chance to block, I would say like 35 or higher, is because of the way this works. So 20% less attack damage taken if you haven't been hit by an attack recently, 10% more chance to evade if you have been hit by an attack recently, and 20% more attack damage taken if you have been hit by an attack recently. So the way this works is, most of the time, the way that evasion works is it's got entropy. Like, say I have 81% chance with my flasks up to evade currently. It's like close to 30,000 evasion. And so that means when you first get attacked in any given zone, it'll pick a number between 1 and 81 and then count down from there. So let's say it picks 40. That means after 40 attacks, you'll be hit. Now, once you're hit, it'll actually roll for block chance. And if you successfully block, blocks count as being hit. And then it'll reset at the top of the entropy. So if you get hit, you're going to get to you'll get 10% more, so you'll go from 81% in my case to 89% chance to evade, and that means it'll be another 89 attacks before you are next going to be hit. And it's possible you block that again, because I don't believe block has entropy. I believe it's pure RNG. So then I'll have a 41% chance to basically reset that again. So the way these combine is that you're very rarely, unless you have like hundreds of things attacking you at once, the 10% or the 20% more attack damage taken if you've been hit by an attack recently is probably never actually going to come into play, especially considering we're often freezing the screen. So that means this is almost always a less attack damage taken multiplier, and then when it is not, it's granting us an enormous amount of evade and basically stopping us from being hit at all. So this is very powerful once you have a, I would say the baseline to get started with this is maybe like 20,000 evasion and before I would consider this, I mean, it's like 20,000 evasion and maybe like 33 to 35% block chance. And if you can get that, then I think I definitely think Wind Dancer is worth investing in because it's very, very strong with the way that works. And then, of course, on top of that, less damage taken, we also have our Fortify and we have our Heartstopper. So all that less damage taken means even physical attacks are not going to do a whole lot. The one, I guess, exception to this is that I've warned about this guy before, but there's an rogue exile that can spawn in the mirror tablets that has ground slam. I'm sure he can spawn elsewhere, but he's only really a threat in high mirror tablets. He has ground slam and he seems to not be able to miss. He has resolute technique or something. So he must have, resolute technique. Your hits can't be evaded, never deal crit strikes. That guy will wreck you. That guy is the ultimate counter to this build. Just don't put the 3 and 4 pip physical things onto your mirrors. Just don't do it. If you're not playing in mirror, if you're watching this in a future league, maybe exiles are somehow made more threatening, or you're running like the exile nodes on your Atlas tree. Just avoid that guy. Just run away. Don't engage if you're running this build or any other similar like evasion build that requires all that kind of stuff, especially if you're running Wind Dancer, because it turns a huge benefit into an actual weakness, because then he'll do 20% more damage to you every subsequent hit after the first one and will absolutely kill you. All right, so I moved the lethal. I guess I should go over gear. I should do this in the same order I normally do. Exact same weapon, haven't changed it at all. Clearly this is good enough. It's obviously not optimal. It doesn't have a tier 1 cold damage roll. It has low attack speed. Like I would want 2 attacks per second or higher. It has no crit multi. It has mana regen on it, which is irrelevant. The physical damage isn't terrible, but it's still only contributing probably like, as much as, what's an easy comparison? I mean, it's contributing a lot less flat damage than like our Herald devices, for instance, still. So even with that, it's, not super optimal, but it's fine. And we're only converting 60% now because I am running the freeze duration on enemies mastery and not the conversion one, even with this level of physical damage. So overall, this claw leaves a lot to be desired. The one I have on Trade League is obviously way better. You can probably craft a better one, especially I still haven't gotten any good fractured claws. I've gotten fractured claws, but they were all on like 1.3 attack speed bases, which I would never consider for this because you want to attack really fast. Unfortunately, I never got good fractured claw on either a 1.5 or 1.6 attack speed base. Heatshiver with enchant now. I put Divine Judgment because I didn't ever end up actually farming oils, and the reason I wasn't able to do that is I probably spent like a third of my time playing this character from day 3 on magic finding, trying to find my Yoke of Suffering. I found like 3 or 4 Heatshivers at this point, but only 1 Yoke of Suffering, and like I said, I just found it 2 hours ago when I was like trying to like get Guardian maps and stuff. I was boss rushing Mesa trying to get the synthesis maps and Guardian maps and that kind of thing, and I just so happened to drop this off some random pack. Body armor, this is the one I had yesterday, but I do have the Fortify enchant on it. I just went and farmed, or influence, I went and farmed the Ichors and essences and I got it, so that's cool. That's very useful. Other than that, I have cold damage. I don't have a lot of embers, so I didn't want to roll for anything else. Cold damage is fine. Cold damage kind of double dips with this build. I kind of explained that before, and that's the reason why on my Trade League version, instead of this attack speed large cluster, attack damage large cluster, I use the cold damage one, because the cold damage one double dips. I mean, so does attack damage technically, because of Heatshiver, but the cold damage one starts at 12% instead of 10%, so it's just better overall. But yeah, cold damage is good in this still, so it's a fine one to take. I do have different rings. I think no, this one's the same. I'm using this ring still. I had to move around a lot of resistances because I lost all the resistances on my shield. So I had to make sure I had two very, well, I guess they weren't too very, but I was way overcapped on everything except I think fire resistance. So I basically had this one fire and lightning I think I had to sort out. So yeah, this sort of just ended up being a piece to sit here and even me out, I guess. So that's pretty much that. I started putting resistance things on this. I only have 3%. I didn't have a lot of them yet. Still running Southbound. I have Commandment of Winter on hit. I decided when I was lab farming that I liked this one for a couple of reasons. Sometimes I'll AFK in maps, something will come up and I'll have to leave really suddenly and I won't have time to portal out, or I don't think to log out because I'm not playing hardcore. So I just go into a corner really quick in the map and kind of come back later. Commandment of Winter is actually useful to this because not only does it scale, off your cold damage, it actually does 11,000 damage on average, which is pretty high because of the kind of damage we scale. But it also knocks things away from you, which is kind of cool. So it pulses with cold and then knocks things back. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different one that I had earlier, but I think it knocks things back. Anyway, and it activates when you're hit, which is kind of cool. You can really run any glove enchant. Boots, I'm still running at Ziri's Step. I switched some things around, so I'm once again going quick step, so I didn't have to run that small cluster, the evasion one that is right here anymore with untouchable anymore. This is good, and it worked fine, but at the level of suppression I was at, having to lose the spell suppress implicit from this shield, the 3%, I had to take this node anyway to reach 100% because I was at exactly 100% with that 3%. So I'm like, I may as well take quick step. It's 10%, which is the exact same amount as I was getting from this. It basically saves me a point, although I lose out, the little bonus passive points and the 30% and 15% evasion. So I did lose 15% evasion doing that, but I gained a point. So I think a point's probably worth that as far as a trade-off. So I got that. Still the same belt. I think still the same murderous eye jewel. Effective cold ailments, life, cold damage to attacks. Honestly, I have a much higher DPS one, but my life's a little low, as you can see. So I was trying to squeeze out every little extra bit of life. All of my next levels are probably going right into Revenge of the Hunted. Get these 3 nodes for the extra life. And then after, like, if I get 4 levels, like if I were to go to 97 like I am on my Trade League character, probably just get this attack damage. Although I might not actually do that because I do have the a medium cluster jewel. Let's see if I can find it really quick. I don't know where I actually put it. There, I have an astonishing affliction. I finally got this. I think I got every kind of medium cluster jewel before I finally did get this one, doing delirium mirrors, but I did get it. I crafted astonishing affliction on it. It's not super great, but it's got life and strength. I'm only going to be taking one of the small nodes and then just beelining up to the socket anyway when I take this, so it'll cost me 3 points that I might have to move around. So that's cool. That's something I consider gear-wise. So yeah, that covers all of the gear. Gems, still running 2023 Frost Blades. These ones I qualityed up to 20% selling them with Gem Cutter's Prism when they hit 20, and they're currently at level 19. So I'm just forever not going to have a level 21 Frost Blades on this character unless I come back to it later on, like maybe if I get bored of Mayhem League. And then other than that, nothing's changed except I'm now using a Gem Swap Ancestral Call, and I am running Withering Step. A lot of people asked me about Withering Step. Basically the way this works, and I am putting it on my left click, but I actually, unlike most people, I do not use my left click to move. As you can see, or as you may be able to see if you're on like the 1080p, I have my farthest right skill bound to spacebar, and I have my move only on that. The reason for this is I got used to that in Diablo 3. I used to play a Cyclone Barbarian way back in Vanilla D3, and if you did this, it allowed you to hold down Cyclone and just like hold spacebar and move. Now it's also very good left clicking a lot hurts my wrist, so I don't like to do it. So I kind of have to get used to intermittently, and it doesn't reset until the Withering Step either. Either you use a skill or the Withering Step expires, so you have to like Whirling Blades out of it. But what it does is it allows you to refresh your elusive. So it'll give an elusive buff that will be replaced with the elusive buff from Nightblade. So you're not actually using the elusive for this outside of like the movement speed and the dodge if you happen to keep it up. But as soon as you attack and hit with Nightblade, the Nightblade one will replace it, which is larger anyways because of all the scaling we have. And that will reset you to maximum crit damage and all of the Nightblade effect stuff that you have, as well as because we have like, what is it? It's like 240% or whatever. So we're also getting something like close to 40%. I think it's like 30%, 38% chance to avoid all damage when it's at maximum effect. So it also is a huge defensive buff to be doing this as well. It also gives us a boatload of movement speed. So this is very beneficial. I was avoiding doing it because admittedly I'm lazy, but the DPS is very noticeable and the survivability boost is very noticeable. It also layers. I don't know how it works with the evasion entropy. I don't think it interacts with it at all. So if you just avoid all damage from hits, I think it doesn't count as an evade. I'm not sure which order, but I think that's probably the case. So I think it's just like another added layer on top of that, which delays the inevitability of you getting hit, because you'll eventually get hit. But you can basically, using elusive, block, and evasion, stall it for like hundreds of attacks potentially if you're lucky. And, you know, a lot even if you're kind of unlucky. Like probably at least 100 attacks, but even if you're unlucky. So can functionally make it so potentially you're almost never hit. And then when you finally do get hit, you're taking a lot less damage than you normally would, which is kind of how the defenses work overall. Oh, flasks. Before I get into the skill tree, which has changed slightly, flasks, most of these are the same, I think, but I didn't mention that I had crafted my diamond flask when I did this days ago, but I just have the same mod as I'm using on everything else, chance to gain flash charge when you deal a crit strike. This is the only thing that really allows us to keep, I mean, we're not going to be topped off during the whole boss fight, but this is the only thing that gives us any flask uptime during boss fights. So, and if you have ads in the boss fight like you do in the elder fight there, you are going to have very high uptime in the even in the boss fights. But in just singular boss fights, normally you'd use all your flash charges and that'd be that. But with this mod, we can at least have some level of uptime during boss fights. And then I have evasion rating. So, you know, with all of the flasks up, evasion's almost 32,000. So pretty good. Pretty solid. I also changed this. I didn't like the instant flask because we're getting hit so infrequently. I would rather recover for the full amount. It's not an emergency to instant flask 99.9% of the time. I would rather have the full gain over time, so I changed that, and also got the chance to gain flash charge when you deal a crit on that as well, with the immunity to corrupting blood and bleeding. So this is actually perfect. This is insanely good. So all of our flasks are right where we want them. Yeah, no notes there. They're all 20%. They're all crafted exactly as I like them. So all right, So like I mentioned, I had my Lethal Pride down here previously. What that was giving me is just a lot of defense, life here, strength, which basically gives us, as you can see, I gained like 120 or so life just by making this switch. Melee damage. Oh, and if you look at my damage here, oh, that's right. I would have to use rage if I did this. So that's going to actually mess up my damage calculations that I was going to show, but that's okay. Yeah, this will allocate Chainbreaker because I have that set up now. So that's the other reason I had to move it, I suppose. But yeah, basically this one's giving me double damage here, then melee damage here, regen, melee damage. We don't have any regen, so actually regen's kind of helpful. It's not insanely good. Attack damage leech, which is nice. Stun threshold, which is largely irrelevant. Yeah, nothing else particularly good, but yeah, just the double damage and then the couple melee damage ones is a lot of damage. These two nodes alone are just straight up 10% more damage, which beats out the crit multi and stuff that I had down here without even factoring in the melee damage ones. So yeah, I looked between these two nodes, and Fangs of the Viper was more damage than this one, which is 13% damage and 2% attack speed. So yeah, it was worthwhile taking. Did that, although the 2% attack speed might feel better, so it's kind of a trade-off. You can, well, I guess you're not going to have the same Timeless Jewel. Oh, as you may have noticed as well, I did my 4-way, got that taken care of, so I have my 5 slots. I pretty much have done everything except the Pinnacle bosses and the Ubers now, so I'm delving, delve about 200. I think at my current level, I still don't, by the way, have the physical taken as elemental crafts. I think I have every single unveil except for those, or pretty close to it. Well, maybe not exactly, but okay. Actually, I'm missing quite a few unveils. Huh, way more than I thought. But even still, I still do not have the fizz taken as lightning. Yeah, wow. There's more of these than I thought. So I guess I still have a ways to go. I don't have the life and mana one either. Where is that one? Did I scroll past it? Oh, here it is. Oh, maybe I didn't have Gravicious on my board. Maybe I've just been barking up the wrong tree. So I guess yeah, learn from me. Make sure you have Gravicious when you're trying to set this up. I think maybe I just didn't have Gravicious at all on my board. Is he in here? Nope, I just messed it all up. So I'll remember that for the next league. I straight up just didn't have Gravicious and didn't know it was specific to Gravicious. So lesson learned. I knew I needed the Elrion, and I knew some of them that I needed for specific ones, but as you can see, our survivability is still good. This will just help against physical damage. With our layers of defense, we're not too worried about it anyway. It's just helpful. And the reason why that is a better mod than physical damage reduction is because it gets around, like if something has physical penetration, it'll get through, or it's not subject to being lowered by physical penetration. So if you're fighting a boss that has physical penetration, or some kind of arch nemesis mod that has physical penetration, that will help you mitigate that, whereas the flat physical damage reduction would not. Ideally, you would have both. If you're running hybrid armor, evasion, body armor, and shield, they can roll as a suffix. The flat physical damage reduction can roll as suffixes on both the armor and shield slot. But you know, obviously that's pretty greedy. If you get that, you're going to be so tanky, you'll just never die. Well, maybe not never, but it'll be remarkably rare. I wouldn't take it on hardcore necessarily, but it'll be pretty rare that you die at that point. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Haven't made any changes to the gems. Oh, I guess one last thing. So since I'm stopping, and this is kind of meant to be a step-by-step guide, and I should also go over my Atlas tree, People might ask, what would you do next? Maybe somebody else gets to this point, and because I didn't go any farther, they're stuck. Well, since this character isn't really aiming for Ubers, the level of damage you would have to do for Ubers is very high. Especially on solo self-found, it would probably take you like possibly months. Like it might take you a couple months even to get to the gear level that you would even consider doing Ubers. Maybe not. If you're a particularly good crafter and you have like really solid strategies, you might be able to get it done. Like I have some tech that I'll talk about in future video to basically make Ubers possible. I guess I can just talk about it now. My plan would be to put Whispers of Doom on Ioka's Suffering and run Southbound instead of the other gloves that I'm running, like the Frenzy Charge Additional Strike. The reason I would do that is because Southbound has 100% freeze duration, which would incredibly increase it. And then I would get a Southbound that is corrupted with elemental weakness on hit, which would more than make up for any other damage on the gloves. And also, you know, Southbound has a lot of damage on it to begin with. So that would, with Whispers of Doom, you would have Assassin's Mark and elemental weakness on hit, which should increase your damage substantially, even with the 66% reduction of Cursed Effectiveness that the Pinnacle bosses have. But the most important thing would be the 100% freeze duration on enemies. If I failed to freeze with that, I would take out Trinity and put crit damage would be my next attempt to freeze. I think that would probably do it on my Trade League character. Those two things alone would probably be enough. If that still failed, there is a unique body armor. I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called. I'm just going to look it up really quick here because this is important for those who are considering going into Ubers. But I should probably, while I'm doing this, but yeah, as you can see, that list tree is changed a little bit. I'm in the process of respecking it, so I have some like wasted points. Like these 2 points, one of them can go here and the other one's going to go towards you know, Shadow of Hunger, because I'm still going to be altar farming. I'll probably have to move a few things around, but I'm just going to PoE wiki so I can remember the body armor, or unique body armor specifically. I'm just going to pull that up and talk about it. You would use this in conjunction with the previous, and you would also probably want to run 2 of the medium. You'd probably want to run 2 Astonishing Affliction medium clusters as well. Basically, you're just making up for your lack of damage because of the 92% reduced damage or whatever Ubers take by just brute forcing a bunch of freeze. Okay, so as if, oops, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm looking for, okay, there it is. So it's going to be called Expedition's End would be the other piece of tech. All damage can freeze. This means that the fire damage from Heatshiver can freeze, which basically doubles our freeze. And then freeze chilled enemies as though dealing 100% more damage. This is a more multiplier with any freeze duration. So let's say our current freeze duration on this character is 300%. Let's say we get a 100% roll, max rolled Expedition's End. That would basically make it 600, but that's not all. It makes our fire damage able to freeze now too. So that means we're basically quadrupling our freeze. So Expedition's End, with all of the freeze tech that I currently have, you will 100% at any level of damage, even if you took a pretty substantial damage loss, going from 300% freeze duration to 1200 is absolutely insane. So with that tech, you should be able to do Ubers with Heatshiver and this setup, and you should be able to proc Trinity as well, so which will also give you more damage. So that's pretty much you know, that's my tech, is Southbound, Expedition's End, if I'm unable to do Expedition or Ubers in any way. I might test this on my Trade League character. I'm taking tomorrow off. Boy, this is a long video, but I guess it's a wrap up. I'm taking tomorrow off just to have a rest day before Mayhem, I still might play a little bit, and I might do like a frequently asked questions or an Uber boss attempt with that tech. I don't have a 6 link expeditions end on Trade League. I have no idea how much they cost or if I have any currency left, because I remember spending a lot of currency. But I have a lot of stuff I can sell. I probably have like 40 or 50 divinations worth of stuff that I'm not going to use on Trade League anyway, that I can sell to kind of make it work. Anyway, that's everything I think that I wanted to say. I was able to accumulate a lot of stuff on this in 8 days. I was able to make good progress. As you can see, I even messed that up. I almost wish I could do another Elder, because I should have been able to do that 34% faster, not counting transitions and everything. So, yeah, this has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I'll see you next time. Bye.